Hi, welcome to Empty Nest Creations. My name is Wendy. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's video is all about Sonnet's Maker's Box for the month of February. This is a box curated by Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and it comes out every month with beautiful paints and papers that are great for inspiration, and this month is all about spring projects. So let's go over what's in the box. Each month you get 2 papers by Roycycled. This month we have the Weathered Farmhouse Plank and Garden on the Scales. This is a master board that has a lot of different images on it. Then we get 2 papers by the Painted Photographer. This month we have Early Snowdrop, which has 3 different images on it, and the Balanced Beginnings, and these are on rice paper. Each month Sonnet includes a beautiful decorative napkin to use for decoupage, and this month we have the one with a rose and a butterfly on it. Then we get a Sweet Pickins milk paint. This month is the color Mercantile. We also get 2 samples of DIY paint. This month we have Skeleton Key and Cake Batter. And we also get 2 fusion paints. This month the colors are Coral and Chocolate. So let's jump into project number 1. For my first project, I have this tin watering can, and I'm using Extra Bond on here. This is something that the Painted Photographer does. It's kind of a base for the paint to help it stick to your project. And so I'm going to give this 1 coat of Extra Bond and let that dry. And I'm only doing the tin parts. I'm not doing the parts that are gold. So I'm going to come in with Cake Batter. This is a DIY paint. And I'm going to give the piece a good coat of Cake Batter. So DIY paints are clay-based paints. They cover really, really well. I'm going to give this can 3 coats to make sure I have good coverage, and I'm using my heat tool to dry in between each coat. Cake Batter is a beautiful yellow, creamy yellow color, and this paint dries very quickly. So once that's dry, I'm going to go in with DIY's Liquid Patina, and I'm going to seal in this paint. Because it's clay-based, it can be reactivated with water, so you always want to seal it in. And I'm just going over everywhere that we put that Cake Batter paint with the DIY Liquid Patina. And once that's dry, we're going to come in, and I'm using the Connie Lines and Designs, the Painted Photographer's paper, and this is the Early Snowdrop, and I'm just using a wet paintbrush to go around those smaller images, and I'm going to tear out both of the small images, and I'm going to put one on each side of my watering can, and so this wet tear method just gives you a nice frayed edge instead of a straight cut edge. I wanted these to look like labels on the watering can. So I'll go back in with the DIY's Liquid Patina, and I mist the paper to just help it lay down flat. And then I give the can a coat of DIY's Liquid Patina, and then lay that paper down into the Liquid Patina and give it a good coat on top to seal that paper in. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So once that's complete, this project will be done. This was a super simple one, an easy upcycle. Let me know what you think about this project. It's great for spring. It is still usable as a watering can, but it also makes a good vase to display your florals in. And so let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I have these little wood coasters, and I'm going to give these a coat of Skeleton Key by DIY. And I'm painting the top and the bottom and around the edges, giving it 2 good coats of the Skeleton Key paint. I do use my heat tool in between to dry this paint. And I'm using a little water just to help that paint flow over the dry paint. Once these are dry, I'm going to come in with a napkin, and I'm just using my fingernail to kind of score around the edges so I'll know where to cut. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut these out. Now, when you're decoupaging with the napkin, you want to make sure that you peel off the extra plies. You only want the top layer of paper. Sometimes you have 2 layers. This napkin actually has 3. And sometimes it can be a little tricky to get that back paper off. So I got the first layer off, but it did have a 3rd layer. And it was a little more difficult to get off. So if you're having difficulty, you can always use a piece of tape. And I'm about to grab a piece of painter's tape. And I'm just going to lay it on there. And it just helps you to peel that top layer off. So you just have that top layer. And then I'm going to use the DIY's liquid patina and decoupage the napkin down. And when you're using a napkin, I never wet it with water because it is more delicate than the decoupage paper. So I'm just putting that liquid patina down and then going over the top, smoothing it out, adding a little extra liquid patina there to help smooth it out. You don't want to overwork it because this paper is more delicate and it can tear easily. So on one of the coasters, I just put a butterfly, and the other one I'm going to use the rose image. And so really you got 4 panels on these napkins, so you can get a lot of projects out of these napkins. So once again, I'm just cutting that out, and then I will go in with the liquid patina and place it on there. So once I have this liquid patina on the top here, I will set it aside and let it dry. I will give the entire piece, the front and the back and the sides, all a coat of the liquid patina to seal in that DIY paint. Once it's dry, we're going to come in with this product. It's Triple Thick by Deco Art. And I'm going to seal it in with this. It just gives it a nice, glossy, water-resistant coverage over that paper. It seals it in really nice and makes it nice and glossy. So it's perfect for coasters like this. And it is thick. You want to put it on thick. It's not as thin as some of the other top coats are. And so you just want to leave it thick and let it dry. And I just left it overnight to dry. And once it's dry, this project will be complete. So they dry to a really shiny finish, and you can use these as coasters, or you can use them as just decorative pieces on a shelf. Let me know what you think about this project. And we're going to move on to our third project. In this project, I'm going to be using the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint in the color Mercantile. You mix this equal parts water to powder, and I always put my water in first. And it helps the powder to dissolve into that water, and it gives you less lumps in your paint. I did take this frame outside and I sprayed it with a coat of shellac. And this just helps the paint to adhere to the surface and enhances the crackle finish that you'll get on here. And so I'm going to give this frame 2 coats of the milk paint, drying in between, using the heat tool to dry in between coats. You can see that first coat doesn't cover really well, but when you come back in with that second coat, it covers much better. And generally, you only need 2 coats. Sometimes if you're using a really light color on a dark surface, you may need a 3rd coat, but for most projects, I only ever need 2 coats of this milk paint. So once that's dry, I took it outside and I'm giving it a coat of the Sweet Pickins Dark Oil Wax. And you want to brush this on and then let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then you'll come back and wipe it off. Once this cures, it cures to a really hard finish and seals your project in. It's water resistant and it's food safe. And I'm just going kind of in a swirling pattern with my brush here. I want to make sure that this oil wax gets into all of that crackle that's on this frame to just bring out that crackle and make it stand out. This does smell, has an odor to it, so it's really good to use it outside and not indoors. And then I'm holding it with one paper towel and buffing it off with another. That way I don't get my fingerprints in the oil. If you get your fingerprints in it, it will dry that way and you can't buff it out. So you want to just be really careful when you're working with the wet wax. And here you can see some of the crackle that we got on this frame. Gives it a nice aged look. So I did let this sit overnight and dry. And I'm taking the backer piece. I gave it a coat of Fusion paint. And then I'm using the Roy Cycle. This is the Masterboard Garden on the scales, and I'm just using one of those pieces, and I misted it with water, and then I'm going to use the DIY's liquid patina to adhere this to the board. Now this image, I didn't want all of the image on here, so I cut off the other scale that was in this image. And we're going to come in with some other pieces and kind of patch this together. So I just started with a starter strip of the liquid patina, and then I'm working my way down, doing a little bit at a time, and just smoothing it out with my paintbrush. And you'll see here, I was a little too vigorous with this, and I tore my paper, but you can smooth it back out, and once this dries, you won't even be able to tell that that tear is there. So once I have this piece down, I'm going to come back in with some words that I cut out of another section of this master board, and we're going to decoupage the words down on that bottom corner. And I'm just going over that top and giving it a good coat of the liquid patina to seal in that paper. And here are the words that we're putting down here to just make sure that this entire board is covered. And because of the way that these papers are designed, you really can't tell that this was pieced together because it has just different pieces on the paper itself. So once I have all my pieces on, I'm going to give it another coat of the liquid patina on the top, and then I will set it aside and let it dry completely. And once it's dry, I come in with my little sander, and I'm just sanding off any of the paper that's hanging over the edges to give me a nice smooth edge. And then I'm going to bring that frame back in. Now it did have some of the picture points on it, but they weren't holding that board in. So I come back in with my tool and I just add a couple of more of the points to hold that board in securely into the frame. This is a great tool. I picked it up off of Amazon. And now that this project is complete. So let me know in the comments if you've used the oil wax before and what do you think about it. I really like this product. So let's move on to our final project for today. This one is a clipboard. And I took a zip tie and I used it to hold that clip open so I can paint the board and get under the clip on this without getting paint all over it. I'm using the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint in Mercantile. I had some left over from the other project, and so I just used it on this one as well. I did spray this clipboard with some shellac just to help the paint adhere to it and not completely soak in to this chipboard that this clipboard is made out of. So I'm going to give this 2 coats, front and back, of this milk paint, using the heat tool to dry in between each coat. And then once that's dry, we'll move on to our next step. That heat tool really does help to get some of that crackle if that's what you're looking for. If you don't want any crackle or chipping on your project, you can add extra bond to your milk paint and it will help it to adhere and you won't get any of that chipping or cracking in your paint. And once that's dry, we're going to come in with another piece from that master board, the garden on the scales. And I just cut this out with scissors, so I got nice straight edges, and we're going to use that liquid patina again to decoupage this paper onto our clipboard. And misting that paper with water just helps it to lay down and really does decrease the amount of wrinkles that you get in your paper. And I will go over the entire clipboard, front and back, with the liquid patina to seal in that milk paint. And then once this is dry, this project is complete. So let me know what you think about these projects. I would love to see your comments. Let me know if you also get the Maker's Box from Sonnet. And if you're sharing your projects, I would love to see what you're doing as well. So leave me a comment. Make sure that you subscribe and share this video. It really does help my channel to grow. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you for giving me some of your time. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next video.